After Batmania swept the nation, anticipation mounted for a follow-up to the 1989 film Batman. Tim Burton, the director, would go on a brief hiatus to direct Edward Scissorhands before returning for the sequel. He had been hesitant to continue his collaboration with Warner Bros. After what he felt was unnecessary studio meddling in the first film. Their pitch to get him to return was based on a promise of more creative control.
And Tim was very averse, at the end of the day, to the idea of coming in and doing a sequel because he thought he'd kind of, look, I've shot my wad on Batman. I've said what I have to say about Batman. I don't really know if I want to do this. And he was very reluctant to get involved. And finally, the way that they kind of got to him was to say, well, what if the second movie is really just a Tim Burton movie? And that kind of got his attention and got him thinking about what he could do with it again.
Burton immediately moved towards fulfilling his creative vision with initial drafts of the screenplay from the first film's screenwriter, Sam Hamm, being discarded. He instead moved to Daniel Waters of Heather's fame to rewrite the screenplay. The studio wanted Penguin and Catwoman to be the film's villains, believing them to be the two most popular members of Batman's Rogues Gallery after Joker. Burton and Waters worked to reimagine the two iconic characters in a way that fit within a new vision, away from the comics and towards a more unified Burton-Batman world. This world was one that took the initial stylistic elements present in the first film and pushed them further to the extremes, minimizing plot elements in favor of deep psychological character building in immense style. Batman would stay in the shadows, allowing for a fuller exploration of Catwoman, Penguin, and Max Schreck. The film was given a budget that was substantially larger than the first film and brought in a number of Burton collaborators from other projects. Cinematographer Steven Chapsky, production designer Bill Welch, Stan Winston, and more were brought into the picture. This would be the definitive Burton Batman film. While the first film seemed to be a good mirroring of corporate and artistic vision, this film would stray into the dark woods of Burton's imagination. The film's cast would be stacked, with Michael Keaton returning as Batman alongside three major newcomers. Danny DeVito was cast as Penguin, Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman, and Christopher Walken as the invented character of Max Schreck. This cast would feature very few familiar faces from the original outside of Keaton, with only Michael Gough as Alfred and Pat Hingle as Gordon returning. The film would move shooting locations from the original, set in Britain, to the United States in Warner Bros. Studios, Burbank, California. This move allowed Burton to reimagine Gotham City as well, further pushing the abstract and expressionistic style of the original film's setting. The film had an estimated budget of $80 million and was given yet another massive marketing campaign by Warner Bros. This marketing campaign would make the film the target of upset parents who believed that the film was too violent to be so aggressively marketed towards kids. A McDonald's Happy Meal line came under fire for its promotion of the film. The negative audience reception dampened the film's box office success somewhat. Despite the film being the biggest film of 1992 at the box office, it was disappointing relative to the previous film's total, making over $266 million worldwide. The film was polarizing for audiences and critics alike, receiving mixed reviews along with the aforementioned controversy. There were responses that both delighted Burton and screenwriter Daniel Waters, as well as confused them.
The lights coming up after Batman Returns, and it was like, kids crying, people acting like they'd been punched in the stomach and like they'd been mugged. But part of me relished that reaction, and part of me, like, to this day, like, oops,
One person would come in and go, oh, this is so much lighter than the first movie. And the next person would come and go, oh, this is so much darker than the first movie. And it's like, well, light and dark are, they're opposites. So it's like, how can something be, and it was like 50% passionately one way, passionately the other. And I thought, this is an odd dynamic. This is quite interesting.
These responses, along with the overall less commercial marketability that was becoming associated with the Batman brand, worried Warner Bros. This worry would eventually lead to major changes for the third film in the series. So with that context laid out, let's look at the film. Does Tim Burton's second crack at Batman top the original? Let's explore Batman Returns. The film acts as more of its own standalone film with brief references to the original, rather than a true sequel. This allows for the expansion that is inherent in superhero sequels to be pointed inward through a deep look into the new characters' psychologies. These new characters, Penguin and Catwoman, both are mirrors of the weirdo that is Bruce Wayne, with Wayne still struggling to reconcile his dual identity with no real heroic triumph in store for this sequel. Instead, it's a look at the tragic story of three outsiders and how the manifestations of their psychological angst are brought forth into full-scale war in the streets of Gotham City. This war is brought into the open at the behest of Max Schreck, a wealthy industrialist who uses his power only to further consolidate his power, manipulating and maneuvering himself in a way that secures his position on the top. Burton is able to use his style in the film's plot to look at the ways that these three outsiders relate to one another, not simply as enemies like in a standard superhero film, but as fellow sickos, creating a Batman film that is less interested in Batman's mission or even focusing on him much at all. He's mostly used as a vehicle for the action set pieces, allowing the film to check the boxes necessary for a big-budget superhero film. Gotham City's design is heavily inspired by fascist architecture, which helps to give the city a sinister feel. This feels like the natural evolution of the Gotham City from the first film, grander and more sinister. Creating a dark world into which Batman's mission feels pushed to the side. He doesn't fully understand why he still does what he does, other than a deep cathartic feeling that he only experiences when punching a criminal in the face. This psychological torment that Batman experiences is in no way alleviated through the film, as each new moment only serves to further push him to the edge. He still stays Batman, at least in some way, as he pleads with Selina Kyle to let Schreck live at the end. This characterization does feel out of place at least somewhat, thanks to an earlier scene in which he gleefully kills one of Penguin's henchmen with a bomb. The whole film feels dark and cold, both literally and metaphorically. The Penguin's underground lair is a brooding Gothic location. Bruce Wayne literally goes into an Iron Maiden to go to the Batcave, and the whole world is covered in snow. The film feels like it takes place in some bizarre snow globe, like a twisted Gothic fairy tale version of a Christmas movie. This dark atmosphere is reflected in the characterization, with the characters unable to fully connect with one another despite each other's similarities, doomed instead to battle each other until their deaths. The film's plot follows one strange event after another until a tragic ending. The acting is really effective at giving life to these captivating characters. Michael Keaton does a good job again as Batman, feeling like a character who hasn't grown, but instead is only further mired in his own trauma response. Michelle Pfeiffer is the true standout, giving an electrifying performance as Catwoman. Her character feels like the one in the film that best demonstrates the film's balancing act between camp and seriousness. She gives us the over-the-top nature of her character, while also still being able to ground the character in a sense of real frustration with the male-dominated business world. Pfeiffer also infuses her character and the film at large with a strong sense of sexuality, with the obvious BDSM overtones of the character, as well as how she owns her sexuality in a way that encompasses a broader character shift from the timid and clumsy Selina Kyle to her reborn split personality as the confident and fully realized Catwoman. Her psychotic nature plays alongside her sensuality in a way that adds to the film's larger themes and style. Her final renunciation of a fairy tale ending gives the character a tragic but fitting end. This choice to murder Max Schreck due to her distrust in the corrupt Gotham City legal system showcases just how little impact Batman has in his world and how little he seems to be able to figure out a better way forward, leading everyone he loves to either leave him or die, due to his own inability to make an impact despite all his wealth and access to power. The film's production design feels so beautifully strange, especially for such a blockbuster film. Tim Burton, with a Batman film already under his belt, a larger budget, and fuller creative control, is able to flex his creative muscles. He fully commits and creates something truly unique. I've talked about fascist architecture, but this strange and dark style is infused into every aspect of the film as well. which only further serves to bring mainstream audiences into a world that was completely atypical then and now. I can't imagine a film like this being made today, with no real connection to the first film and no real through line or growth for Batman's character. No expansion of the world or characters, with the new characters introduced all dying. A film that was given over to a truly visionary filmmaker like Tim Burton, without the pressure to adhere to any formula. The production design and the practical sets and effects give the world the feeling of a lived-in nightmarish dystopia through which Batman can never find peace with himself or with anyone he ever meets. The film balances a more comic campiness with a more serious tone in a harsher contrast than in the first. The entire film feels like a campy joke, with each character feeling like a strangely distorted caricature. But still, Burton and his team find a way to infuse the film with a strange, serious nature that pushes the imagery that should in all respects be laughable into a strange gothic phantasmagoria. I don't think we'll ever see a film from such a big franchise and with so much riding on its financial success take the chances this film did to be as strange and as infused with original artistic direction. The biggest film of 1992 was one that leaned on outsider gothic imagery and characters in a way that simultaneously alienated and captivated audiences. The film's plot is virtually non-existent. Instead, the film is a showcase of characters with fractured psyches and their struggle towards self-actualization and connection, only for those attempts to nearly burn the whole damn city down. Batman Returns is my favorite Batman film. That opinion is informed, of course, by nostalgia from watching the VHS as a child, with the film's imagery serving as my own mental image of what a Batman film should be, as well as being informed by my own developing tastes and subsequent rewatches over the years. There is so much I haven't even talked about, such as the iconic score by Danny Elfman, which is another element that has stuck in my mind as essential Batman. The film represents the death of an era through which a film like this was even possible. A franchise film that couldn't care less about its source material, fan expectations, or commerciality, instead laser focused on bringing to the screen the vision of a madman. Batman Returns is a strange, sexy, fun film, and it's one that should be appreciated as the best of what is possible within the superhero genre.
Bruce Wayne, why are you dressed up like Batman?
Because he is Batman, you moron.
Security? Who let Vicky Vale into the Batcave? I'm sitting there working and I turn around, there she is. Oh, hi Vic, come on in.